Alrighty, guys, it's time to talk about Urban Sprawl. This is a game by Jensen and produced by GMT Games. This is a game that came out all the way back in 2011, and it is still available. In fact, you can still purchase this on sale at the GMT store site. So I think it's last time I looked, it was either $20 or $25 for this game. So if you're interested, they still have a few copies of this. So pick you up a copy if you're interested. After we find out, does Urban Sprawl, does it rise up and grow super big? Or does this game get bulldozed over by all of the mechanics that are in it? Let's talk about the 5 things that I really liked about the game. We'll talk about the 5 things that I wasn't very happy with the game. Then I'll give you my final verdict for Urban Sprawl. Let's get to it. Alright, so let's talk about the good things first. We always like to go in positive. We like to talk about all the good things. Number 1 is going to be... Dun, dun, dun. Alright. Your turns go by pretty quickly. So if you're playing with 2, 3, or 4 people, you're going to have pretty quick turns. Your opponent's not going to be taking 20 minutes to take their turn. You're going to be doing up to a few actions. You're going to be spending 6 action points. And you're going to be doing things. Sometimes it'll be just 1 or 2 actions. Sometimes it'll be 3 or 4 or 5 actions, depending on what you're choosing to do. You're not going to get that many things to do, and everything you do in the game is pretty quick. So the turns go by pretty quick. It's not like you're sitting there waiting. If you're playing with 4 people, you're not waiting for 10 minutes for your next turn to come around. So turns go by pretty decently, pretty fast. Number 2. It is a pretty easy game to learn. There's not a lot. I think we looked at this. There's only 16 pages of rules. So it's not super complex. The rule book is laid out nicely for you to learn how to play the game. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out about this game. There's not a lot of tutorial videos or anything like that to kind of help you learn how to play the game. But I think if you watch my playthrough, after watching a few turns, you'll pretty much understand what you're going to be doing throughout the game. So it's pretty easy to learn. There was a couple questions I had as we played through things when certain situations came up. But besides that, it was very easy, very streamlined, very easy to learn to pick up and get into. Number 3. I did enjoy in Urban Sprawl all of the new game ideas that were thrown in that haven't been discussed or rehashed or done over and over and over again. And the way the action selection mechanisms and the different jobs, the mayor's job and the police chief and all the different inspectors, and how those people can keep moving, and how those elections keep coming up based upon the amount of times you draw cards that have the special abilities on them. So there's a lot of really neat game ideas. I think that is one of Chad Jensen's strongest suits. Was he always kind of thought outside the box when he was coming up with game ideas and game thoughts. You look at some of the games like Combat Commander, Fighting Formations. He basically takes, those typical World War II tactical level games and throw a spin on it. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change it all into dice on the cards, and each of the cards is going to have special abilities on them. Oh, that sounds really cool. That sounds really fun. So all of his ideas are always inspired to make things new and interesting and fun, not the same old rehash over and over again. So I do appreciate that for sure. And anytime you see these new ideas, whether they work or not, and even in our last review with the Battle of Britain, or Undaunted Battle of Britain, At least we gave them credit for trying new things. It didn't turn out really great, but it was at least they were trying something new and trying something different. I'm always looking for new games that are looking for new ideas. Number 4. Variable setup. I love my variable setup games. Games that, every time you set it up, it's going to be different. This time, you're going to be taking some of the deck and shuffling it up, and you're not going to even see that part of the deck. So you're going to get a lot of variations there. You're also going to get variations in all the cards that are in play after you've done all this variable setup stuff. The board layout is going to be the same every time. So there's not variable setup there, but depending on who's first player, who's second player, who's third player, you're going to start with extra things. You're going to actually take your little tokens and put them out on the board to start the game, which will be variable every single time you play the game. So I will honestly say I don't think you could probably play this game, 100 times and you would never see the same setup, which is going to give you new challenges every time, which I enjoy and I love that stuff. And last but not least, for the 5 best things we talked about, what we really enjoyed, is going to be, and I have to give credits this time, we complain about the rulebook a lot in a lot of reviews. We talk about how bad it is, how hard it is to learn the game because of the rule booklet. As I mentioned earlier, there was a couple questions I had as I played through the game and literally got the rule book out as I was doing my live stream, and we found the answers very quickly. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty good. If you have a question, you go to your rule book and you can find the answer pretty quickly. That's pretty good. So we got to give credit where credit is due. The rule booklet, pretty gosh darn decent. Again, it's not super long and super complex, but it does do a great job with how it's laid out and the information that's in it. So there is the 5 best things we enjoy. Turns go by really quickly. You can learn the game very understandably, the process as you watch through or you play through a couple turns. You're going to learn it pretty quickly. I enjoyed the new game ideas, the variable setup, and the rule booklet definitely helped make the learning process very good. And now, not everything is a bed of roses, my friends. It's not. There's no perfect game out there. There's going to be 5 things that I just didn't like, and some of these I didn't like a lot, to be honest. Let's get into them and see what those cons are. The 5 cons. Number 1 is, for me, it's going to be the length of the game. It's going to be a longer game. It's probably going to take you, the first couple times you play it, it's probably going to take you 3 or 4 hours or maybe longer, depending on how many players you have, how much people are jabbering and talking as you're playing. If you're sitting around talking as you're taking your turns and you're trying to min-max things, the length of the game can go extremely long. There is some variables set up in the rule booklet where you can have a shorter game, a longer game, or a normal game, and it depends on how many of those cards you're going to bypass when you're setting up the game. So you can set it up to be a shorter game if you want to, but for me the length of the game seems to drag out a little bit longer than I would have liked. We played several. It took us about an hour and a half to play through one deck, and you got to go through 3 decks, which is going to put the game at around 3.5 to 4 hours. It is our first playthrough, so you can expect some slowness from that. But I still think that this game, probably sweet spot is 2 to 3 hours. Anything longer than that is probably going to get a little bit stale and a little bit boring because of some of the issues you're going to see coming up in the cons part of this. Number 2, and this is the exact reason why the length of the game is too long, is there are not a lot of deep decisions for you to make. It is a lot of times it is very simple, like, oh, I'm going to take this planning card and I'm going to take this building and I'm going to use this planning card to make this building, boom, and there you go. the cards that are laid out on the table kind of spell out your turns for you. If you need a 3 civil or a 3, you need 3, say, residential, and there is no 3 residentials out there, you can't even look at that building to build. You're only going to get 6 action points during your turn, so there's only so many cards you can take. It's not like I can, I'm going to grab this card, this card, this card, and this card, and this. You're not going to be able to do that. So you have to kind of pick and choose, and as you're picking and choosing, there's not a lot of deep decisions, which, again, goes back to number 1, because the length of the game, because you're not making these hugely important deep decisions, you don't need a game that's going to last 3 or 4 hours. 2.5, maybe 3 hours max. Because again, you're not making these really tough, deep decisions. You're just doing, hey, here's the high school, and I can use this to build the high school, so I'm just going to use these 2 cards. Boom. It's not super rocket science. Number 3. The event process repeats itself over and over and over again. I thought events would be super interesting and super, how do I want to put it? Super, impactful. And, here's an event. Let's read the event and we're going to find out some interesting thing. And it's not like that at all. It's like, whoever has this building here loses 1 money and loses 1 victory point, and then you're going to score 1 victory point for this person. And it's just that same process over and over and over again. Whoever's got the best civil building is going to get 1 and 1. Whoever has the media token is going to get 1 and 1. Whoever's got the best urban building is going to get 1 and 1. It's the same process over and over and over and over again. And we got to be a little bit repetitive with the number of events that are actually in the game. I would have liked to have more interesting events that happen and then are taken out of the game. Like an earthquake happens. Great, okay. But then you put that earthquake back in and it can come out again, and it can come out again, and it can come out again. As many times as you reshuffle that deck, it can keep coming out. So I'm not 100% thrilled with the way the event processes repeat themselves and kind of just keep coming back over and over and over again. Number 4. This is a very aggressive conflict game. If you want to be buddy-buddy with people and have 4 or 5 of you or 3 of you sitting around a table and laughing and having a good time, this might not be the game you want to do it with, because this is a screw everyone kind of game where you can, I get to destroy a building. I'm destroying your most important building that you have that's worth the most, and I'm sorry, you're out of there. Boom. You're not going to make a lot of friends doing that. So it is a very aggressive conflict. Now, if you have 3 or 4 people that go in knowing this and expecting it, and it's not going to have hardship on your friendship, then that's fine, But you just have to know going in, you can't take this, you're not going to take this game to a game club and meet like brand new people and go, hey, let's play Urban Sprawl. It's not that kind of game, because you're just going to piss off a lot of people, and people are not going to be happy with the how things turned out, and it's just not designed for that. It's a aggressive conflict, screw your neighbor kind of game, and it's not a game to sit around and make new friends with. Let's just put it that way. Number 5 is you are constantly, and this is so annoying too, you're constantly adding up all the values of all of the buildings on the board because you're using these events keep coming out. The most valuable civic buildings. So now you're going to count up every one of your civil buildings and find out what the most valuable one is. And then the next event comes out and it's the most valuable residential building. And so you're adding those up. And it's like constantly adding these values up. There should have been a track or some kind of way to, like when somebody builds something and say, okay, you build a 13 blue building. We're going to put this on the track to show that 13 is the most valuable blue building and who owns this building and what location it is in or whatever. There is little tokens that come in the game, but they're very hard to see. They don't really make sense, and they don't really tell you which is the most valuable or the least valuable, because sometimes you're looking for the most valuable, sometimes you're looking for the least valuable. So you're constantly adding values together. Now, with that said, I heard that there was, back in the day, and I don't know if it's still around or not, there was an app or something you can get either on your phone or online, like a website you can go to, and it would auto-calculate all your different values as you typed in the, as the board changes state. You could just use your phone or the app to keep track of all that information, which would make it much more easier. But let me tell you, that's constantly adding in values every time something changed or something got moved on the board, and having to recalculate that every time an event come out. And let me tell you, there was sometimes that it was 2 or 3 or 4 events that came out in a row. And so you were doing this process over and over and over again, and I did not enjoy it. Like I said, it would have been much better if there was a track or something that you kept track of that important information on a separate track or something. Would have been much better. So those are the cons. The length, again, for me, was a little bit too long. I could see this dragging out, especially if you got 4 people. I think this is 2 to 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 2 to 4 players. It says playing time is 3 hours. I would say that is going to be your maximum amount of time you want to be there. You're not making a lot of super tough, deep, thought-invoking decisions. Again, it's, I can get this and this and this and use these to build this, and then where am I going to put it on the board? I'm going to put it where I can afford it, basically. It's not a lot of really tough, deep decisions. The events were too numerous. They weren't very special. Again, I would have liked, all of a sudden, all players are going to instantly get to draw 1 planning card, and they're going to get to put out a level 2 industrial building for free somewhere on the board or something cool like that. There's nothing cool like that in the game anywhere. This is a very aggressive, conflict-driven, screw your neighbor kind of game. It's not a let's be buddy-buddy, let's work together kind of game. And again, constantly adding all those values up over and over and over again was, oh my God, it was such a pain. It was driving me crazy. All right, so let's get to the verdict. Let's talk about it. What do I think of Urban Sprawl by Jensen and GMT games? Well, I think it has got some great ideas. This has been on my radar for a long time. So I'm going to say this right off the bat. I love my city building games. I love city building games. I love train building games. I love the little games where you sit down and you're building tracks or you're building cities and you're earning points and you're doing all these fun things like that. It's a Euro game made by GMT. Let's be honest. It's not, obviously not a war game. But I hadn't purchased it. This game came out in 2011, and the reason I didn't purchase it was because I didn't hear a lot of great things about it. There wasn't a lot of information about it. GMT never talks about this game. You don't know anything about this game other than it was made by GMT and Chad Jensen. Now, I love Chad Jensen. Everything that Chad Jensen has touched during his life has been great that I have experienced. Combat Commander is my #1 war game of all time. It will always be my #1 war game of all time. I love Combat Commander, that whole series of Combat Commander. I enjoy the other one, it's at the tip of my tongue right now, and I can't think of the name of it. It is called Kursk. It's got the Kursk expansion. What's it called? It's called oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't even think of his name. Anyways, I love the Chad Jensen's designs because they're different. They're not the same old thing. They're always interesting, and they're designed to be super fun. But again, I didn't hear about this game. I didn't know anything about it. Nobody ever talked about this game. Nobody ever showed off this game. It came out in 2011 and kind of flew under the radar, and it's just been sitting there for like 13 years not doing anything. And so I was like, I'm going to take a shot at this game because it's got Chad Jensen's name, which I think, again, he does a lot of great things. And I'm still trying to think of that game in the back of my brain. Part of my brain is still thinking about the fighting formations. It finally came to me. I knew it was in there. It was scrambling around. I was about ready to knock my head out. So I enjoy fighting formations as well. That's another Chad Jensen design. Again, super new ideas. It's super not something you would ever expect. You're rolling a bunch of 10-sided dice, and then depending on what numbers are rolled, you can activate those different dice on that different location, and then you have this little balancing track. Depending on how many actions you're using and how much it costs, you're going to move back and forth in this track. Such a cool idea, and it really turned infantry combat on its head, just like Combat Commander did. And this is kind of the same thing, where it takes the formula of city building and says, what if we did something a little bit different? What if we just made it a little more aggressive, and people were really fighting over different territories, and we made it so that, you're always in competition with one another, trying to get the very bestest spots, and, basically how the board layout and everything is on the board. And then you're fighting over these different positions. If you want to be mayor, right? If you want to be mayor, you have to have the most little tokens out there, and then the contractor, the police chief and the contractor, and each one of those has a special job that gives you a special ability, and you're fighting over those, and there's a lot of interaction going on, and you're trying to basically figure it all out. I had a great time playing this. If it wasn't as long, if it was a little bit shorter game, if I can get this done in 2 hours, I think it'd be a great game. But right now, I still think it's a really good game, and I'm going to give it an 88%. And I'm going to say that this one, my friends, this one is a hidden gem. I'm not going to call it great. I'm not going to call it good. What I'm going to say is this is a hidden gem. I think that this one is one that, for the price right now on GMT site, you should pick this up if you can afford it and you're at all interesting. You can pick this up for $20. I think it was $20 on the GMT site. They still have these available for some reason. Again, because I don't think anyone ever plays this game and nobody ever talks about it. And I don't know why. Because it's super neat, it's super interesting, and it's super... I can understand why some people wouldn't like this, right? Because of the aggressiveness and the competition. Some players are going to be, I don't want to play that. A lot of Euro gamers do not like conflict, which I totally understand. I can completely understand that. But I think you could change a few of the rules and take out a few of the cards that are some of the aggressiveness you could take out, or just ignore those cards and not even use them. But I still think it's a competitive, aggressive game, but you can still have a good time with it. Number 2 point is, it plays fine solo. We played it fine solo. I was doing 3-hand solo, no problem. Boom, 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 boom. I was having a great time playing it. And if the game wasn't so long, I would have just finished it. But because the game is going to be 3 to 4 hours, especially the first time you play it, it seems to be a little bit long. Now, once you play the game a couple times, you know the process, boom, 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 you can get a little bit faster. But I still think this game needed to be 2 hours, and that'll be done. Be done with it. Again, there is variable setup where you can make the game shorter or longer based upon how many cards you're playing it through 3 decks. And you're taking half of the deck, and you're setting it aside, and you're playing with the other half of the deck. So if you take 3/4 of the deck away, and you're only playing through 1/4 of the deck, the game is going to go by much faster. So depending on how much of the deck you choose to use, the game will go much quicker or much faster. Again, some people will not enjoy the conflict part of this. A lot of Eurogamers do not enjoy conflict at all. I know some of them. That's okay. If they don't enjoy it, then don't play this with them. Again, this game is not one of the ones you're going to take to a brand new game club and go, hey, guys, I'm new. Do you want to sit down and play this game? Because you're not going to make a lot of friends playing this one, right? Because it's a very competitive, in-your-face, screw your buddy kind of game. So just keep all that in mind, and I think that's why maybe it flew under the radar for the longest time, is it just didn't gain traction. I still think there's a great game in there, and for the price, the $20 price, you absolutely positively cannot beat this anywhere. Is probably, if I was going to tell everyone to buy a game, I would tell you to buy Urban Sprawl for the $20. It's well worth your investment. You can play this over and over and over again. You're going to get tons and tons of replay because, again, you got 3 different decks. You're going to only play through like half of those cards every time. So you're not even going to see all the cards. You can probably play it 20 times before you can even see all the cards. Every time the cards get shuffled in, it's going to be different. You're going to see different things. They're going to come out in different orders. Some of the events you're going to see, some of the events you won't see. There's just so much variability in how things are going to play out. But there you go. I think this, again, it's somewhere between good and great. I would call it almost great, but instead of that, I'm just going to call it a hidden gem. I think it's one of these games, if more people heard about it and more people saw it, more people would play it. But nobody does for some reason. I think it's one of these games that people just don't talk about. It's kind of taboo. Again, I've had opportunities to buy this game and I haven't, just because I'm like, I don't know anything about this game. And the only reason I bought it was because it was $20 at GMT, and I said, all right, for $20, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. And I'm really glad I did. I think it's a really good game. I can see myself playing this every year and having a good time. I'm not going to play it all the time, but I can see playing this. Actually, I can see this playing more than Combat Commander because it's easier to get to the table than Combat Commander, unfortunately. Combat Commander needs a solo mode. That's a story for another day. But right now, our verdict is going to be 88%. It is a hidden gem, Urban Sprawl by Jensen and GMT. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, subscribe if you're new, leave your thoughts or comments, suggestions. If there's a game out there that you feel is a hidden gem that I need to try, let me know in the comments section, because I would love to hear and find more hidden gems. I'm all about the hidden gems. That's my whole thing. I always love to find these diamonds in the rough that nobody knows about. And I love finding these games, and I think I found a killer one here, Urban Sprawl. Thank you all for joining me. We'll see you soon. Until then, my friends, don't you forget, I will see you all down the line. Bye for now.